All right, man, peace. So, brothers, this is going to be the first video in a series that I'm going to start called Money or Women, question mark. Originally, I was going to take this segment here on Judge Mathis and add it to the Is Blood Thicker Than Water series, but I decided to start a new series based off of the premise of money or women, question mark, because that oftentimes is a dichotomy that brothers have an issue with, that they struggle with, because sometimes we don't understand that both those issues are not mutually exclusive. It's not necessarily about what's more important, money or women, because as a man, you need to make sure that you can monetize whatever it is that you do or that you do well, that we have a steady income, not even so much for how we're perceived by others, but for the bettering of our self-image, which is going to have a direct correlation with how we're perceived by others. And then, of course, it's going to bring other components into our lives, whether that be women or what have you. And then as we grow, as we mature, we learn the ability to discern between a good woman and a bad woman based off of how much money we're bringing in for ourselves, because you are going to attract a certain class of woman, a certain level of woman, based off of how much money you're able to generate. Why is that? Because based off of how much money we bring in for ourselves is going to determine where we're allowed to go, where our hangout spots are, who we fraternize with. And then we have to be able to know, when we're dealing with a woman after a certain period of time, what exactly is she bringing to the table? And is she worth me adjusting or amending my everyday practices to spend time with her? Because we're all going to have people come into our lives, not necessarily just women, but sometimes men as well, whether it be a friend, a homeboy, a coworker, a colleague, or what have you, that we have to evaluate. We have to evaluate ourselves every day. So, of course, we have to evaluate everybody else that comes into our lives. And when we deal with the woman is going to make demands. As I tell you, brothers, all the time, the woman is a headache. Not necessarily in a malicious way, but they are headaches because for the most part, they're just grown children. They do tend to nag. Sometimes they can be high maintenance. And that's okay if what they're bringing to the table is enough to offset some of those quote unquote negative attributes. And that's the point that all of us are going to come to if we're blessed enough for the Most High to send a good woman or good women into our lives, whether or not we should adjust that balance of money versus the woman, because that time is going to come. We're going to deal with certain females that are of a lower level, what they call thoughts or thotties, or concubines, more appropriately called. What we're going to say, look, I don't have time for all that right now. I got to make sure that I'm on my P's and Q's. And then you're going to deal with a woman who might be quote unquote wifey material, where we'll say, you know what, I'm going to put this on the background for now because I have to spend some time with my lady. Because that's important. We have to know how to utilize the time within our day to make sure that we pay the appropriate amount of attention to the people who are very important in our lives. And that's going to bring another issue of the outside forces that are going to come about and try to alter that rapport that we have with our significant others. And they can come from anywhere, especially in a society where females have basically been integrated into certain fields, certain areas that have been dominated by men, the workforce, what have you. And you have to be conscious of that. That's why I tell you, brothers, you should not really be sporting your woman around your friends, your family members, your male family members, let me specify, things of that nature. Of course, you bring them to functions or what have you. But you always have to be aware and cognizant of the fact that familiarity does not always bring contempt. Sometimes it can bring attraction. And I mention this because there are so many cases that I see in everyday life, in real life, and also on television shows like this, where what causes two males that were one time close, whether it be family members or friends or homeboys or what have you, what causes them to separate is a woman. And should you allow a woman to cause a fissure in a relationship that you have with a man, whether it be a male family member or a friend, that's up to you. Because you have to be able to evaluate how important that man is in your life. Hopefully it's never a family member, hopefully. But oftentimes the Most High will bring a woman into your life that may attempt to bring confusion into your life in that way so that he can reveal what that man is really about that you thought was your homeboy, that you thought was your friend, that you thought was your road dog or what have you. But always be cognizant and aware of that. You deal with these women and y'all go through your quote unquote breakup and all that other shit. Don't marvel if you find out that your homeboy tried to hit on her, or she slept with your cousin, or she slept with your colleague, your coworker, because they got introduced at the Christmas party or the job party or whatever. Crazy shit can happen. So that brings us to this case right here. The plaintiff right here runs his own barbershop. The defendant is his nephew, and they had a falling out over a myriad of issues, but really it seems to be over a woman. So of course they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Plaintiff Aaron Mann says the defendant is his nephew, and when Aaron opened a barbershop, he took the defendant under his wing and taught him the trade. Aaron claims everything was good with their relationship until a female customer tore them apart.
No, the female customer did not tear you guys apart. There were already issues there, maybe jealousy issues. That's another thing, brothers. You always have to be aware of certain people in your circle, in your retinue, who may be jealous of you for whatever reason. You have certain gifts that they envy, as opposed to spending time with themselves, trying to invest in perfecting their own gifts. They're more concerned about your gifts, and they want to try to bring some level of entropy or chaos into your life by destabilizing you in some way. Oh, I'm going to hit on homeboy's girl because I'm going to show him. I'm going to show him I could take his girl. I'm going to show him I could do this or I could do that. You have snake niggas like that in the world, unfortunately. So whenever you have an issue like this, where two men fall out over a woman, it's normally because of another issue. Normally some type of jealousy involved, or envy, where the man wants to show the guy that he's jealous of that he's superior to him in some way by trying to take his girl or something that belongs to him.
And he's suing his nephew today for booth rent.
And when I say belongs to him, that's in quotes, because as I've already stated, none of these women really are ours in this society. None of them. I don't care if you sign a marriage contract or all that shit. The length of time that the female is with you is based on the grace of the Most High. Period. Not a contract.
Booth rent and stolen property. Defendant Joel Kane says the woman who came between him and Aaron was more than just a random female customer. She and Joel were in a serious relationship, and Aaron was sending her inappropriate text messages behind Joel's back. Joel's countersuing his uncle for defamation.
Yes, sir. This is my nephew. Very close relationship.
Allegedly.
After he got out of high school, I had to open up the barbershop in '09. Yeah, he wanted to learn the trade. Took him under my wing, got him together. Hairlines was a little shifty, but we worked through it. He mastered the hairlines. Everything was cool until a woman that comes into the shop just tore our relationship up. How long?
Let me say this, brothers. You never, ever, ever let a woman cause a distraction in your life. Ever. Ever. Because in the so-called black community, there's this paradigm where the so-called black woman, the liberal black woman, let me specify, believes that she has the right to chime in on issues that do not concern her. Where, to be quite frank with you, people do not care what you think about these issues, but they've been trained to bring forth their interjections and vain opinions that normally result in nothing beneficial or positive. I always refer to the so-called black man because he's supposed to be the head, and you take certain things that you learn in life and you utilize them in your rapport with your woman. That's how you build up the level of strength in the relationship between you and your woman, by speaking and communicating with her. Another man is not supposed to act as an intermediary between you and your woman. So a lot of you brothers who are married, quote unquote, and you're going to a relationship expert or couples therapy with you and your woman, that means that your woman does not respect you or regard you, or maybe you have not spent enough time trying to perfect your ability to discern what's going on in your relationship, because she does not trust your views. She doesn't trust your perceptions. So now she wants a third party to come in and act as someone who can intervene, because she's pretty much ready to leave you alone. That's why I say you have to take your time in getting to know these females, man. Because at the end of the day, when they show those different aspects, you have to be prepared for that mentally. But just getting back to the point, I get a lot of these liberal females who are trying to come onto my videos and acting as if they're on a so-called pro-black channel. This is not a pro-black channel. My channel deals with order. I don't care about how you feel about what I say about a man having more than one woman. I don't care about what you have to say about 99.9% of subjects, because you have to be concerned with your man. I live in the real world. I make these videos for brothers. I don't live in the internet world where I clickety-clack back and forth with a broad all day. I don't care about what you're talking about. And that's the bottom line of it. And the only way for the so-called black community to change a lot of these problems and these paradigms is for us to deal with things in an orderly way. The woman does not deal with order. She deals with confusion. The scriptures detail that in 1 Corinthians, the 14th chapter. That's why it tells you how the woman is supposed to learn in silence. Okay? You confer with your man at home, but oops, a lot of liberal black women and liberal women, period, cannot get a man and can't keep one. So they're running on the internet looking for attention. And then they want to act as if they're not liberal, but you look at their screen names, and their screen names speak volumes about who they really are. Either way, I don't care. My channel is geared towards the so-called black man. Everybody is welcome to listen.
How long after he started did a woman come in and spoil things, as you say?
Well, it just started. We opened the shop in 09, I say 16.
Okay, so what happened? How did the woman come between the two of you?
Well, we get a lot of single mothers.
No shit. Hey, brothers, you hear that? And that's major. Many of these single women, they like to go to the barbershop and get flirted with or flirted on by the barbers who are taking care of their son's head. And that should let many of you brothers know that the overall relationship paradigm in this society is for the female to get impregnated and then run the man off. That's why I always tell you, brothers, you have to scrutinize the females that you're laying down with. You have to scrutinize them, because the program is to allow you to impregnate them and then run you off, because they don't want that masculine energy hovering over them, especially if you don't have much going for yourself. That's why I tell brothers, before you establish a serious relationship with a woman, make sure you have your shit together. Make sure you have your shit together, because they're going to be looking for any reason to terminate that quote unquote relationship, especially now that they have that fetus in their womb. That's all they're going to be concerned with, because they know they have you hook, line, and sinker, irregardless of what you think or how you feel about them for the next 18 years. They have you. So you make sure that you impregnate a female that respects the masculine principles, not running around trying to be some mega feminist and libertarian and all this other silly shit.
A lot of women that come in the barbershop.
But y'all be hitting on the women?
Of course they do. That's easy pickings.
Yeah, you married or what's that? You married? You free?
Never free. Just free
That's
spirit.
a good point there.
It's a great point. Once again, that's why this video is called Money or Women? Question mark. The woman is a bill and she's a headache. She's also a blessing. All right, I'm just joking. She's also a blessing.
Nothing's never free. Free spirited. Just from the area we work in is urban. We do a lot for the community. A lot of young guys come in my shop. They want to earn money. I let them sweep, clean the parking lot. I can't save them all, but I can save them one at a time. So a lot of the women, you can tell.
Yeah, you could also save yourself some money by paying them pennies. Let's be for real. Acting like you're trying to save the community by having dudes sweep up, clean the parking lot. Like, knock it off, dude. You're also saving yourself money.
You can tell we're single mothers. They like some of the structure we would give their sons, so they enjoy coming in the shop.
Yeah, they love some of that structure so much that the father is not around for whatever reason. Once again, brothers, always understand something. In the narrative that's going to be told about you in this society, when you're not around, nobody's going to care that the woman was disrespectful towards you. Nobody's going to care that she was starting 5 arguments a day. Nobody's going to care that you're having trouble finding a job. You're going to be known as a deadbeat, bottom line. And the female's going to believe that she can go find quote unquote male energy anywhere for her son, because that's how she views the son, as her property. Oh, well, let's take him to basketball camp. Let's take him to swimming camp. Let's take him to the barber shop where he can have some men over him. Like, they have no respect for the masculine principle. They have no regard for that element of quote-unquote fatherhood. The vast majority of them, the liberal woman does not. Let me specify. So you brothers have to understand how they're going to tell your story if you're not careful about who you choose to inseminate. They're not going to give a fuck about you or your perspective.
A lot of women would love coming in our shop because we weren't aggressive compared to other shops in the city. So it was a good time, a good situation.
The young lady involving the two of you, what happened there?
Well, she came in and he wasn't in the shop. I cut her son. We were conversating. Very nice looking young lady. Just conversation. She asked for my number. I'm the owner.
That's not true, Your Honor.
I'm pretty sure that's not true also. Let's be for real, dude. That chick was not in there asking you for your number. You asked for her number. Knock it off.
Let him finish. Go ahead.
She asked me for my number for the simple fact if Joel wasn't there because he's preoccupied doing other things. We also both work for the city of Indianapolis.
Bullshit. You know that the defendant normally cuts her son's hair. You found her comely. You saw that she was most likely flirting with the defendant. You was jealous of him for whatever reason. And you saw your opportunity when her son sat down in your chair. And you said, you know what, let me see if I could offer her my business card in case she may be interested in transitioning her son over to my chair and transitioning her coochie over to me. That's all you did, brother. Knock it off, man.
Indianapolis. So we're busy guys. So she wanted my number in case he wasn't there because she liked the way I cut her son's hair.
Why the fuck she need your number in case he's not there? When you work at the barbershop, you own the barbershop. 99% of the time, you're going to be there. These guys are something else.
No problem. Didn't think nothing of it, Your Honor. Didn't think nothing of it. When the next time she comes in, he's there. I'm there. She said, I'm waiting on Aaron. That was it. That's when he
blew up. Sir?
How you doing, Your Honor? Thank you for having me today. As the plaintiff stated, that is my uncle, and we did cut hair together at the barbershop. And it is true, he did help me out a lot of ways with the haircuts and the hairlines and things. Told me how to use the razor. Just the nature of the barbering game, he really helped me out a lot. As far as the woman that he's describing, it was way more serious than what he's saying.
No,
she wasn't just some kind of random girl that comes in the shop. She wasn't just a single mother. The whole barbershop knew that we were in a serious relationship. Whereas my uncle, he knew we were in a serious relationship.
She was everybody's girl, Your Honor.
That's not true.
Well, wait a minute. Did you hear what the plaintiff stated? He said that she was everybody's girl. Well, if she was everybody's girl, why are you trying to act as if the rapport between you and her was purely based on you cutting her son's hair? You just refuted your own sentiment, dude. Brothers, once again, be careful of who may be around you that may be envious of certain gifts that you have. Okay? Be very careful. We see that theme played out in Shakespeare's play Othello. Certain people will try to sow confusion in your life because they're envious of you, oftentimes because of the woman or the women that may be attracted to you. And they'll see if they can usurp that energy that you have and try to convert it over to themselves. Weak people never spend enough time investing in their own gifts. They spend more time concerned about the gifts that others have. That's what weak/jealous people do.
Not true, Your Honor. Your Honor, that's not true.
She was everybody.
So, I want to go a little deeper in the background. You know, as he stated, he did help me out a lot. But I believe our relationship began to go kind of sour when the student began to surpass the master. And what I mean by that is, you know, the stuff he...
Now, did you hear what the defendant is stating? He's saying that the plaintiff got jealous of him. And I'm pretty sure that there's some credibility to some of his allegations. I'm just looking at the plaintiff. He looks like an older dude who may be going through a midlife crisis and wants to see if he, quote unquote, still got it. If he could still pull a young chick.
Stuff he began to show me, my skills began to surpass his skills. So people he's been cutting for years, you know, he'll say, hey, Jim, you know, I have two and I have you next. Well, now, Aaron, I'm going to sit in Joel's chair today.
Stay tuned. The case continues after this.
I believe him. I believe when he states that a lot of the issues that occurred between he and his uncle had to do with the jealousy that his uncle had for his growing barber skills. Believe it or not, people can be very petty, especially people who initially were trying to empower you. For those of you brothers who remember the film Malcolm X, remember Spike Lee created the character of Brother Baines. And Brother Baines was the character who initially brought about Malcolm X's conversion while in prison, at least in the cinematic version of Malcolm X's life. And he also was the person who helped to conspire behind the scenes to alter how Malcolm X was perceived by Elijah Muhammad. Once again, Brother Baines was meant to represent a certain archetype. That person who wants to raise you up but does not want you to surpass them. That's a major issue.
Go ahead.
Our relationship really began to go sour when one day she told me, I need to talk to you. I'm like, well, what's going on? She said, well, your uncle's been texting me inappropriate things, messages and stuff.
That's not correct, Your Honor.
So I'm like, what kind of messages? She's like, well, things like, what are you doing this weekend? Sending her selfies. Can I take you out? You need.
I believe the defendant's version of how the events transpired between himself, his uncle, and the young female in question. And as I asserted initially, that's how you know that when the plaintiff saw that young, attractive female with her son was willing to have her son's hair cut by him, he tried to use that as an opportunity to hit on her. Not only because he found her attractive, but because he felt like, wow, a lot of my clients are starting to go to my nephew. I'm starting to get jealous of him surpassing me. Let me see if I can bring a little bit of energy and self-confidence back to myself by seeing if I could take this female. There's a little doubt in my mind about that. He has all the marks of an older dude who was starting to feel as if maybe I'm being replaced. Never underestimate the insecurities that people can have within themselves.
You need a more mature man. You don't need a young man.
Really?
Yes, Your Honor.
Listen to that.
So I'm like,
You're mad because he cut better than you and he caught better than you.
Tell him, Judge.
That's not true,
So you cut and caught better than him.
yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So I was hot. I was livid because, we're family. You're not supposed to violate family.
What'd you do? You approached.
I agree. Brothers, look. Your homeboy, your cousin, your brother, or whoever, they may pull a hot chick. Don't sit back and hope things go awry so you can ask them, yo, would you be mad if I hit on this chick? There's so many females out here in the world. There's so many. And 95% of them are bugged out of their fucking minds anyway. Just leave it alone. Even if your homeboy or your brother or your cousin says, nah, I don't care, they care. Or at least they should care. Not even necessarily about the female, but that you would have been looking at their significant other in a sexual way. Because looking at another person's woman, when I say another person, I'm talking about your homeboy or your brother's woman. That's like looking at his underwear. Would you look at your brother's underwear and say, that's a nice pair of drawers? When you're done wearing them, can I wear them? Like, come on. Get the fuck out of here.
You approached him about it?
The next day I approached him. I took him to the back of the shop and
And let me say this very quickly. Once again, that's why when I make these videos, I address the so-called black man. Because in many of these churches and these temples and these other so-called spiritual institutions, what they do is they allow the man and the woman to learn together, and they address many of the sentiments and the questions of the woman at the same level as they do the man. And all that does is encourage confusion in the household. Because the woman goes home and believes that she's on the same level as the man, and now she wants to confer with the quote-unquote teacher more than she does her own man. And that's one of the main ways that your relationship with your woman grows. She asks you questions about life and about society and what have you, and you have to be astute enough to answer those questions. It can't just be about where you're going out to eat and all that other stuff. You have to be able to answer your woman's questions about life so that she can build a trust in you. That's why I don't go back and forth with strange women, man. It's a waste of my time. You have to have your energy on the woman in your life, the females in your life, whether it be your mother, your niece, your sister, your cousin, if they need you. You can't be on the internet going back and forth with these strange females. I see some of these brothers starting to argue back and forth with these women. Once again, brothers, do not argue back and forth with the woman. If I see liberal females in my comment section, let me take out the trash. Okay? Let me take out the trash. This is not a pro-black channel. I don't tolerate all that back and forth. What about you niggas? Or what about y'all? I don't have time for dumb shit. Worry about your woman at home, so-called black man. Stop worrying about all these strange, lonely, random, bitter, liberal black females on the internet. Liberal females, period. It's not your job.
And I asked him, I said, hey.
And I laughed.
This situation needs to be fixed. You said that, this and that, and I want to know what's going on.
You hit on my woman.
Exactly.
Period.
So, of course, he denied it. He said, he tried to switch it. Well, who you going to believe? You going to believe your family? You going to believe this random girl? And then he begins to change the narrative and says, well, while we're talking, I want my booth rent. I'm like, you want your booth rent? What are you?
Because that's really what it was all about from the start. He was jealous of you, dude. Brothers, don't ever entice envy. Envy is like a malignant tumor. It's only going to grow. You make sure that you try to extricate yourself when you're in an environment where people are envious of you. First, you have to be able to spot it. Once you spot it, it's like spotting a tumor. Once again, once you spot it, you remove it by removing yourself. Because people who are envious of you or jealous of you is only going to get worse and worse, because it's a reflection of a dearth of something that they have in their life. They're missing something in their life. That's resulting in a lack of self-confidence. They're expressing it by wondering about, how come this person over here is so happy? Why are they blessed in this way and I'm not blessed in that way? Once again, as opposed to them concentrating on the gifts that they have in themselves and trying to cultivate those gifts, they're worried about the next man's gifts. That's what they're worried about. That's a jealous, envious ass person. And you have to remove yourself or it's going to get worse. We see it all the time.
What are you talking about?
Okay, if you're getting into the booth rent, let me allow him to lead off with that.
Hell, if you're working at a job and you see that people are trying to give you a hard time because they may be envious of how you handle yourself, you should look for another job. But once again, that's why brothers should not be working in corporate America anyway. The so-called black man's too good for that. You should be trying to cultivate whatever gifts you have and be apart from that corporate America bullshit.
That, then we'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Your version.
The last time I received booth rent from Joel,
What was the agreement first? Let's start there.
it's $125 a week.
Oh,
Verbal
right.
agreement with the barbers. It's just cash in hand. Their money pays my overhead. The money I make cutting goes to the family.
And nobody pays their IRS. Go ahead. Yeah. I pay my house. That's what they do there. Go ahead.
The barber game is a good hustle.
Go ahead.
It was
125 a week.
Yes,
was
sir.
the pay, and then what happened?
Well, 9/6/16 is the last time I received booth rent from Joe.
When did he leave, if at all?
He left December.
Okay.
Not only did he leave, I come into the shop. His stuff is gone. Fine, I can replace him. But I look over my station, my Masters, my Andys, my Razor, my Blade Watch. Don't nobody know. And he's missing in action.
What's wrong with this brother's neck? He's twisting it around like a damn ostrich.
Along with your equipment.
Yeah, and my bread.
Well, I guess the defendant said, well, nigga, you want to steal my girl? I'm going to steal your equipment.
My nephew, mind you, once he got into the barbershop, when I had my twin daughter.
And brothers, let me say this. If a man happens to quote unquote steal your girl, number one, a man can't steal your girl. They can only take what was never yours in the first place. That's number one. So chalk it up to the game. Don't run up on that dude trying to start no fight or no argument. The man did you a favor. Okay? Once again, there's nothing permanent in the flesh. If shit goes down, that's just how it goes down. You never, ever, ever fight over a woman. Now, when the woman is true, you fight for the woman. God forbid, y'all walking down the street, something occurs, you have to protect her. Scriptures tell you have to love your wife like Christ did the church and be willing to give your life in righteousness. But when it comes to these scalawags and these concubines out here, you find out that the chick you digging out is with some other guy, or the female that you thought was down for you was sleeping with somebody else. That's just a part of life, man. You got to move forward. I've gone over this already. A lot of these dudes, they try to run to the scriptures to make a woman stay with them, and all you're doing is emasculating yourself. That's all you're doing. Right now, we're in Babylon. You have to understand where you're at. That's all. The Bible is meant to provide a foundation for you, a sense of wisdom and stability, so that you understand why certain things happen. Why is it that so many so-called black men lose their minds in this society? Because they're never taught how things are supposed to be, how they're supposed to think, how they're supposed to operate. They're taught to lead with their emotions. A lot of so-called black men are like chicks stuck in a man's body because how they were raised. Once again, it goes back to the so-called black man. I'm never going to come on here and say, well, this is what black women need to do. No, that perspective lacks insight and it lacks depth. We have to get to the root of the problem. If the so-called black man's the head, he's the one who has to be addressed, not the woman. The man addresses his woman. You address your woman. I can't be here addressing random women.
Daughters I got on with the city. So guess who else I pulled in?
Yeah.
I didn't trip about the money because he's family.
You still helped him after the money incident?
Come on, Judge
That's not
Matthews.
true, Your Honor.
Hey,
That's false.
family will do you wrong regardless. You still gotta love them.
Within bounds. I agree with you, brother, but within bounds, yes.
Person on the street that you don't know, they'll treat you better than sometimes your family.
Sometimes.
So I didn't have no ill
The scriptures tell you that there's a friend that's sticking closer than a brother.
feel towards him.
Your Honor, the person that actually got us on with the city actually stole that client as well. He started sitting in my tree. So I was going to get on with the city regardless of him helping me or
Ooh,
not.
I hate when people do
Ain't that
that.
something?
You help him. I was going to get that regardless.
And when you
That happens all the time. That's why you have to do things because you know the Most High is watching. You can't do things for the accolades of men. I say that all the time. People come on my channel, they say, oh, brother, you changed my life. Certain things that you said benefited me greatly. I just want to thank you. All that's great. But you know what? The same person that's patting you on your back today could be stabbing you in your back tomorrow. So everything I do is because I know that the Most High is watching, the angels are watching. So when the day of judgment comes, they open up that book, they say, this is what you did correct, this is what you did wrong, but it's not about men and the approval of men, because men and women, they change on you every day. You can help certain people out. There are certain things that you taught someone and they'll try to act like you weren't the one that taught them, somebody else taught them and all this other stuff. That's okay. I don't allow people to establish how good or bad I feel about myself. And I would advise you brothers to do the same thing.
and when you help somebody, you don't
You're not the one that got it. I got this on my own.
And he excelled with the city. And that's very...
What do you tell me, sir, about the rent?
Now, did you guys hear what the plaintiff stated in regards to the defendant? He said, and again, he excelled with the city. So it seems like whatever the defendant does, he's very gifted at it. He does things very well. And you have certain people like that whatever they put their hand to do, the Most High blesses them. You have certain people who are gifted in that way. And the plaintiff seems to have a little bit of jealousy over that.
Yes, sir. So to back up some, like he stated, in September was the last time that I paid him any booth rent. So we lost about 4 or 5 barbers in the barbershop. So, we were doing kind of bad. So I made a proposal that I would help him with half of the rent as well as some of the utilities. And in return, I wouldn't have to pay any booth rent. So from September through December, I was giving him cash to help him out with some of the bills as well as the rent. So it was bad. The argument became bad. And after he told me that, I'm like, you know what? I don't have to deal with this. So I left the barbershop. And after I thought about it for a couple hours, I said, you know what? I don't need this negative energy. I don't need these problems. I'm just going to dismiss myself from the whole situation at hand. I'm just going to leave. So later that night, when I went to the barbershop, I took all my belongings.
Later that night.
Yeah, why'd you have to take him in the middle of the night?
Thank
Because he didn't want to come back while his uncle was there and get that ass whooped. That's why. Uncle looked like he go about 6'3", 240. And the nephew looked like he's about 5'9", maybe about 190, something like that. He didn't want to get that ass whooped. That's why he snuck in late at night. And once again, brothers, you cannot allow a woman to establish how your relationship with another family member is going to go. You can't allow that. Now, once again, you cannot allow a relationship with a random woman to establish how the rapport between you and a male family member is going to go. Now, if it was someone that he was in a serious relationship with and the uncle knew that, that would be a bit different. But that's why you have to always keep all these ancillary issues and topics and people in their proper perspective and proper place. Maybe the defendant had aspirations for the relationship that he felt like he was going to have with the woman. Who knows? But it certainly seems to have led to the disintegration in the working relationship between his uncle and him. That's why, once again, this video is called Money or Women? ? Because the defendant has to be able to put everyone in his life in their proper perspective, especially in relation to how it's going to affect his money. Maybe he had plans to leave his uncle from jump, and he just is using this as an excuse. That's assuming that his relationship with the female in question is not as serious as he's trying to act like it is. People can be diabolical. Who the hell really knows?
To give you.
What sense does it make for him to come here and
Take
lie
a
about?
personal day.
Yeah.
Not at the shop today. I
Just
drove-
make a story up. This is essentially what you're saying. He's just making it up.
I agree. What we're left with is that the defendant must be bitter about how disillusioned he was in regards to what he thought the relationship was with that young female coming into the barbershop. Brothers, it's very important to know the difference between a concubine and a wife. I've already done a couple of videos about it. I believe it was the Denzel Washington Mo Better Blues videos on how to tell the difference between a concubine and a wife. Very, very, very essential.
Yes, sir. That's your
Look
honor.
how smooth he looked right at you. Did you see that? He's under oath.
Stay tuned. The verdict next.
Counterclaim for $2,500. How does?
So the counterclaim, Your Honor, defamation of character. So when I had left, a few days after I had left the barbershop with my equipment, I began to receive different messages and stuff, phone calls from people. Hey, where you at? Why aren't you at the shop? You know, your uncle's saying that you stole from him and you ran out on paying booth rent and you did them bad and you were messing up people's haircuts. Just a whole bunch of stories that weren't even true. So I was like, okay, he's just mad that I left, so I'm not going to worry about it. So probably 3 days later, I had went to another barbershop around the corner from ours, and I went to inquire about cutting hair there. So I spoke to the owner, and I told him, you know, my situation. And he basically told me, well, you know, Joel, I can't let you work here for the simple fact that around the neighborhood, the word's going on.
You're a known thief.
Exactly, Your Honor. And that's what the defamation. The Far East Side isn't big at all. Everybody knows everybody. It's like telephone. You tell one story, it flips, and it's a whole nother story.
He told you that your
Uncle
had
saying,
said you were a thief.
I'm not a good liar. People, where's Joel at? Been in since '09. He has a nice clientele. His chair is right next to mine. They know we work together.
Where do you work now?
Now, isn't it interesting? The plaintiff states that his nephew is well known, has a quote-unquote nice clientele, and he works in the booth right next to his. Once again, could it be that he was jealous? Is that why he decided that he was going to try to get in between his nephew's burgeoning relationship with the young female? Brothers, always make sure that you evaluate the people in your circle. You have to perform personality evaluations of people that are in your circle to find out if they're around you for your benefit. Everybody in your circle has to be there for your benefit. If there's anybody around you that's there and they even show a hint of being concerned more with being detrimental than beneficial, they have to go, man, immediately.
now I pretty much go to different, I go to their house, or they,
Won't nobody take you.
not for the Far East Side, that's for the defamation of character. I have to go all the way out west, north. It's a shame, Your Honor. I want to be known as a
I
thief.
mean, they believe it. I mean, they believe it. Everybody believe it.
Now, I'm not there to defend
Why
myself.
everybody believe it then?
I wasn't there to defend myself when he's saying these things.
It's your word against his, but everybody take his word.
And
Right.
I'm not there to defend myself. That's all.
And I'm not a good liar. Where's Joe? I'm gonna tell him.
You said all the people, you know who it is. You go there, can I get a job here? Nope. Heard you stealing.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's the time. That's the time to give your side.
And I did, Your Honor. And that's when they told me.
Nobody believes you.
They believe me. They just said they don't
Why
want.
they didn't hire you?
They didn't want to get in the middle of that uncle and nephew relationship. They
Do
didn't
you
want
mind if someone else hires him?
I want him to come back. It would.
That's really what it's about. You want the man to come back because he was so good at cutting hair. Even though earlier in the case you alleged that there were some issues with his hair cutting. He was so good at cutting hair that you got jealous of him. He was getting so much attention in your barbershop that you got jealous of him. So, this is why I state there are a lot of dynamics to these family issues, these money issues, and these women issues, and oftentimes they intermix. So, we all have to learn how to distinguish what's what, because a lot of confusion can come along when you decide that you're going to initiate a relationship in a workplace environment and you're working with family. All types of craziness.
It would bother me.
And I would like to, but my character is defamed. So when people clients come in, we got to keep telling the same story 30, 40 times
It's
to
the
get my
truth,
name
nephew.
straight.
It's the truth.
It's not the truth.
If you would have just paid, we wouldn't.
So I would like to come back, but I mean, we'll see how it goes.
People are going to talk regardless. I just got tired of first month. I'm like, I don't know he's working. Then I just said, you know what? It is what it is.
So you
No, you never said you don't know he's working. You said the nigga ran out on paying me. He skipped out and he took the stuff with him. And you took great pleasure in giving that story because you were trying to demonize him and defame him because you were jealous of the fact that he was a better barber than you. And he was actually pulling chicks that you was not pulling.
What it is.
so you want me to believe that he just made this up? What motive does he have to make up a story to try and hurt your reputation? What motive?
Jealousy, Your Honor.
Ding.
Your Honor.
Oh, get on out of here. Tell us so
Both have
what.
homes. We both
Your Honor,
have
he
cars.
would have
both
people
have
there.
Tell us so what.
Well, I would do afros that looks like Steve Harvey and yourselves. He would do it that look like Eddie Kane. It wasn't looking good. I want to help him, but
Judge Mathis want to laugh. He can't even laugh. Like, I would like to say that, but this is a wig I got on. You think you could shape up my wig?
pride gets in the way.
That's a lot.
I believe him. $2,439. When I don't have enough evidence, I go by the person I believe, and I do believe you over him. Based on your testimony, I believe you. All right, your claim dismissed for defamation. Good luck to you guys.
Well, hopefully it was rectify the situation and Joe can come back to the barbershop and we can do what we've been doing for the last 10 years.
That's how you know it was frivolous jealousy. A lot of times when people are jealous of you and they don't want to acknowledge it, they try to appease you by welcoming you back into their fold. Because the plaintiff knows that a lot of what transpired really shouldn't have had to go down that way. If it was not for the simple fact that he was jealous of how well his nephew was cutting hair and the fact that he was pulling a chick that everybody else in the barbershop probably wanted. Just silly, dumb shit. There's so many females out here. There's no need for two male family members to be trying to compete over the same woman. You never compete over a woman.
Yes.
I hope we can. We're family, you know. We're bigger than this. Hopefully we can get past this and move on.
All right. Cool. Thanks.
But anyway, that's it on that. Peace.